Ladies and gentlemen, it is finally taking place. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right after this for a synopsis and an upload of this live stream to my super chat. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. CBS News, CNN, grand jury subpoenas, former CIA Chief Brennan, and two ex-FBI agents, STRZOK and Page. They were the ones accused of texting, "We'll stop Trump." It's all taking place, ladies and gentlemen. I have been telling you for close to 10 years now on this channel and in my writing. You can read my writing on hagoodman.com. Let's get started. You will hear in a couple of minutes the exact moment that John Brennan commits perjury via testimony to Congress. But check this out first. Hit subscribe. It's taking place, ladies and gentlemen. He faces certain indictment. So the indictment of John Brennan is a certainty. He faces almost certain arrest, as does a whole number of people. Hit subscribe to this channel. This is huge.
Breaking tonight, just in the past few minutes, Fox News Digital is now reporting a federal grand jury has subpoenaed former CIA Director John Brennan, former FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, as well as others. It is part of the Justice Department's investigation into the origins of the Trump-Russia probe. Sources say the trio were served with federal subpoenas today. Law enforcement sources also say up to 30 subpoenas will be issued in the coming days related to this investigation. We'll follow that.
Hey, Sean, meet Miss Miranda.
So it's taking place. This journalist should win the Pulitzer Prize along with John Solomon and some other journalists, Catherine Herridge. But check this out.
Your post columnist Miranda Devine. Miranda, this is something that a lot of people expected. What do you expect?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to, break out the popcorn and the champagne quite yet. I think there's a bit of a ways to go, but it's certainly a huge turn up for the books. I think John Brennan and the FBI lovebirds, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, Jim Comey, James Clapper, the whole lot of them, the whole lot of Russia hoaxers thought that they'd gotten away with it. There was no way that they thought that Donald Trump would survive, the impeachment, the lies, the portraying him as a Russian puppet, a Russian stooge of Vladimir Putin. And then, of course, the 2020 election when they buried all the bad evidence about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden from the laptop, and they wrote that or signed that dirty 51 letter, John Brennan again, right in the thick of things. They thought that they had just dispatched Donald Trump to probably to jail or certainly to ignominy.
They never, ever thought that President Trump would be in this position to arrest and indict all of these people. They never thought it was possible, and now it's taking place.
Certainly not to become president again, and it's just their worst nightmares. And I think they probably thought that Donald Trump and his administration would be distracted and not worry about going back to the past and maybe show mercy like Trump did in his first term to Hillary Clinton, but no such thing. And it's not about retribution, even though Donald Trump did say to his supporters before the 2024 election, "I am your retribution." That's very satisfying, but it's more than that. It is really about deterrence. It's about making sure that never again will a CIA director, an FBI director, an NSA director, or any of these institutions be weaponized against a sitting president and against a candidate for office. And there has to be punishment. There have to be heads on pikes. And I'm rooting for John Brennan being one of them.
So this is the exact moment, and hit subscribe to this channel right now. You can watch this on H.A. Goodman's other channel. This is the exact moment. You can see John Brennan lied and denied using the dossier in the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, which was complete nonsense. There was no There was never, ever, ever any shred of evidence that Russia wanted Trump. Why on earth would they have invaded under Biden? And do you think they really feared Clinton with top secret intelligence on private servers? So check this out. This is the moment he perjures himself, and he does the same thing almost certainly during the Durham probe and the 51 Intel officials' investigation when they lied about Hunter's laptop. This is the moment. Check this out. Hit subscribe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will yield to the gentleman from South Carolina. You may ask Mr. Gowdy.
I thank my friend from Arkansas. Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
Do you know if the FBI paid for any portion of the Steele dossier?
I don't know. I know that there are press reports related to that, but I don't know. I have no firsthand knowledge of that.
Do you know whether any of the underlying allegations made in the Steele dossier were ever tested, probed, examined, cross-examined, whether the sources were examined for reliability, credibility?
I know that there were efforts made by the Bureau to try to understand whether or not any of the information in that was valid, but I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
That is, of course, a lie. That is exactly in addition to a whole bunch of other conspiracy statutes. So that was a lie under oath. It's a lie almost certainly that he kept going during the Durham probe. That is the moment, ladies and gentlemen, for posterity, for U.S. history. John Brennan lied and denied using the dossier. The dossier was purchased by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. They literally used campaign funds, Bernie Sanders' campaign funds. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post in 2016. It's embarrassing for both me and anyone who still supports Bernie Sanders. Believe me, I'm embarrassed as well. Bernie Sanders was part of the whole hoax, almost certainly, that charade in 2016. They don't even have functioning primaries. They cheated Bernie Sanders. The emails showed that. There was a Clinton email cybersecurity nightmare. The whole thing, the Democratic Party started imploding when they forged or when they had phony primaries that don't even matter. It's a complete farce. You can ask Biden. They kicked Biden out after he won his primary. Okay, then Comey and everyone else covered up a cybersecurity nightmare. Top secret intelligence transferred onto servers. It's impossible for that to take place. Okay, it's highly illegal. It's not only illegal, it's the definition of criminality. You can't transfer top secret intelligence onto Clinton's servers. It's impossible to do so from a cybersecurity perspective. Then, of course, they lied. They lied about everything. They made up a phony hoax, a McCarthy-era Red Scare. There was no evidence. The evidence, according to the declassified documents, showed that Putin didn't care either way. Furthermore, there's public record evidence, Politico, and in their own emails, the campaign emails that were published by the New York Times, The Guardian, WikiLeaks, and everyone else, that they wanted to elevate Donald Trump. How on earth could Clinton want to elevate Trump, and then Clinton purchased a dossier that was funneled through the U.S. government that said Putin wanted to elevate Trump, which is complete nonsense. But here's the lie right here. It was used. It was not only used as a basis for Trump-Russia. The U.S. government used a Clinton-purchased, nonsensical, completely fabricated dossier full of lies to set up and frame Trump. They literally used Trump's direct political rivals, absurd fabricated dossier to set him up and frame him. And this is where he lies. Check this out again.
Mr. Crawford, 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will yield to the gentleman from South Carolina. You may ask Mr. Gowdy.
I thank my friend from Arkansas. Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
It is impossible for the CIA chief or the FBI chief. Comey also lied under oath regarding this. How could they not know who commissioned the Steele dossier when they utilized the dossier? They not only utilized it, they tried to intimidate President Trump, an incoming president. They gave him the dossier. Comey himself gave him the dossier, said, "Oh, we're looking into this." How could you not know? How could you not know if you're given a compilation of lies that said that the incoming president was working with Russia? How could you not know the origin of that document if you're the CIA chief? It's completely outlandish and absurd. Of course he knew. Let's continue.
Do you know if the FBI paid for any portion of the Steele dossier?
I don't know. I know that there are press reports related to that, but I don't know. I have no firsthand knowledge of that.
Do you know whether any of the underlying allegations made in the Steele dossier were ever tested, probed, examined, cross-examined, whether the sources were examined for reliability, credibility?
I know that there were efforts made by the Bureau to try to understand whether or not any of the information in that was valid, but I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Perjury incoming. Here is the part, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I didn't give my commentary during the first replay of this, but now we're going to tear it apart. Check it out.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
That is perjury. The CIA relied on it. Let's continue.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence.
Because we didn't is like it's almost as if a child is caught lying. They have nothing else to say, but because we didn't. Because we didn't is not an answer. Because we didn't is the answer of Brennan when he was caught off guard. And during this testimony alone, he's caught off guard numerous times. He has to make things up. So because we didn't is a completely irrational answer. Because we didn't was him not knowing what to say, and yes, he did. It's all throughout this declassified Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, information. Okay, John Brennan lied, denied using the dossier because he knew it was a discredited, politically motivated, manufactured document. He had senior CIA officials use it anyway. And there's whistleblowers. And there's people who worked with Brennan. So if the rebuttal is, well, you can't prove, no. They have so many people, almost certainly, willing to tell investigators that Brennan wanted the dossier, even though there was a whistleblower, numerous ones, already stating they didn't want to use it. Because this is part of U.S. history, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately. Hillary Clinton literally imposed or infiltrated U.S. history with a dossier that has indoctrinated millions of Americans for the past decade to think that Trump and Russia was an actual thing. There was never any evidence, ever, that Trump colluded or that Russia wanted Trump. If anything, they would have wanted Democrats. That's a whole other story. Uranium One, private servers. They invaded under Biden. And Clinton's campaign themselves wanted Trump, according to their own emails. The entire thing was a lie. And now people are getting arrested and indicted. And again, it's like there's no good No good comes from going after Trump. It's like a Trump curse. It's the Trump curse. There is a Trump curse, almost certainly. I mean, I'm joking, but not really.
Information that we had, it was not in any way
on us.
Tested, probed, examined, cross-examined, whether the sources were examined for reliability, credibility.
I know that there were efforts made by the Bureau to try to understand whether or not any of the information in that was valid, but I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had.
It sure was part of the corpus. Oh, it was part of the corpus.
It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done.
Now that is perjury. It was not in any way used in any way, even if the rebuttal is, well, it wasn't that important. It wasn't really important. It was not in any way. And this is the thing. This is a 2017 testimony. Yes, it's beyond the statute of limitations. Guess what? He was interviewed and interrogated during the Durham probe less than 3 years ago. He was also implicated. All of this took place because of the 51 intel officials lying about Hunter's laptop. He was under oath there and he lied. That's what Jim Jordan said. You'll hear him in a second. Jim Jordan stated that John Brennan's going to get indicted, arrested, all of that because of the investigation of the Hunter laptop lie. The 51 intel officials that lied about Hunter's laptop. It's so amusing. He almost got away with it. But he ended up lying about Hunter's laptop.
It was not.
All right, this is my last line of question. I hope I have waited sufficiently.
Laughing Dog, thank you so much. Yes, I agree. Great point. To my super chat, thank you. Great point. And that's Cash Patel right next to Trey Gowdy. Okay, Cash Patel watching in real time. This is the declassified documents. This is the declassified memo. You can look, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, if Brennan is cited. This is the press release, but it's a press release of the declassified documents. All at Brennan, mischaracterized intelligence, misled lawmakers. Brennan denied the inclusion of substandard reporting. Brennan overruled CIA officials. Brennan lied and denied using the dossier. Brennan refused to remove it. Brennan stated in a memo, there was strong consensus, all lies. Okay, all lies. Now you have everyone turning on each other. Now you have Strzok and Page and all of that. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when you get Gomerized. This is Strzok, one of the people now who is implicated in the alleged "we'll stop him" text messages. He allegedly said that we'll stop Trump from becoming president. And this is one of the agents that were working on both the Clinton email cover-up and the Crossfire Hurricane setup of Trump. This is former Congressman Gomerizing. Check this out. This relates directly to the Brennan indictment upcoming.
Concerned about a hostile foreign power affecting our election. Do you recall the Intelligence Community Inspector General Chuck McCulloch having an investigation into an anomaly found on Hillary Clinton's emails?
So he, alongside another agent, Page, were subpoenaed to basically testify against Brennan. This is very amusing also because Brennan will testify almost certainly against them.
I do not.
Well, let me refresh your recollection. The intelligence community, Inspector General Chuck McCulloch, sent his investigator, Frank Rucker, along with an ICIG attorney, Jeanette McMillan, to brief you and Dean Chappelle and two other FBI personnel that I won't name at this time about an anomaly they had found on Hillary Clinton's emails that were going to and from the private unauthorized server that you were supposed to be investigating. Now, do you remember it?
I remember meeting Mr. Rucker on either one or two occasions. I do not remember the specific content or discussions.
Well, I'll help you with that too then. Mr. Rucker reported to those of you, the four of you there, in the presence of the ICIG attorney, that they had found this anomaly on Hillary Clinton's emails going through her private server. And when they had done the forensic analysis, they found that her emails, every single one except for four, over 30,000 of them, were going to an address that was not on the distribution list. It was a compartmentalized bit of information that was sending it to an unauthorized source. Do you recall that?
Sir, I don't.
If that were Trump, they would be saying that Trump was selling classified data, and here's the proof. Trump's emails on secret servers, including classified data, SAP Intel, was being sent to an email that was not on the distribution list, which, by the way, you shouldn't even have a distribution list. Secret servers should not have a government distribution list. But anyway, they would be accusing Trump of literally selling America's secrets through a secret server if this were the other way around and Trump had secret servers.
Well, he went on to explain it, and you didn't say anything. No. You thanked him, you shook his hand, but the problem was that it was going to an unauthorized source that was a foreign entity unrelated to Russia. And from what you've said here, you did nothing more than nod and shake the man's hand when you didn't seem to be all that concerned about our national integrity of our election.
So allegedly, Clinton's servers, well, probably not allegedly, Clinton's servers, the emails were being obtained from the U.S. government. This is a fact. And the classified and top secret intel was being transferred illegally from the U.S. government in some kind of impossible cybersecurity manner from secure locations onto secret servers. That's a fact. And Congressman Gomer is stating, then the emails are being transferred to a foreign entity. Could you imagine if President Trump was implicated in this? But no investigative journalism at the Washington Post or New York Times. Let's continue. This agent, by the way, is now going to almost certainly turn on Brennan.
When it was involving Hillary Clinton. So the forensic examination was done by the ICIG, and they can document that. But you were given that information and you did nothing with it. And one of the things I found most egregious with Mr. Horowitz's testimony, and by the way, Horowitz got a call 4 times by someone wanting to brief him, leaving messages telling him about this, and he never returned the call. He had 500 pages of bias that he gave us, and then he threw a bone to the Democrats and said, but we can't find bias. And let me tell you, when you have...
Inspector General Horowitz stated he couldn't find documentary or testimonial bias. Well, of course, none of these people wrote down, we can't... Well, actually, they did. They texted that they couldn't stand Trump. They want to stop him, but he didn't find on official FBI stationery. We signed all of the FBI officials hereby declare we despise Trump and will set up and frame him with the Steele dossier. Signed Comey and McCabe and all these people. So there was no documentary and testimonial bias. Nobody said, oh yeah, by the way, we set up Trump. Well, of course there was no documentary and testimonial bias. And then, of course, media ran with that, and it's, that's media lies by omission. That's why nobody trusts media.
Have text messages, Mr. Strzok, the way you do, saying the things you did, you'd been better off coming in here and say, look, that was my bias. And you kind of get around to that a little bit when you say, hey, everybody's got political views. Those are called biases, and we all have them. And you have come in here and said, I had no bias. And you do it with a straight face. And I watched you in the private testimony you gave. And I told some of the other guys, he is really good. He's lying. He knows, we know he's lying. And he could probably pass a polygraph. It's amazing.
Mr. Chairman.
No, this is my
Mr.
time.
Chairman.
And he could probably pass a polygraph.
I'm sorry. Point of order. This point of order.
No.
The gentleman will state his point of order.
A member of this committee just asserted that this witness, who is under oath and a former agent of the FBI, lied. There is no evidence that. I ask him to withdraw it.
I do not withdraw it. He is not a member of Congress. It's not a violation of the rule. And just as you have been expressing bias through your members about what a hero
there is not a single person on this committee who has ever characterized a witness
gentleman from Rhode Island.
Gentlemen, it's my time.
That's a
gentleman from Rhode Island will suspend.
No, the disgrace.
Mr.
What this man has done.
The gentleman from Texas will suspend for a moment.
There is the disgrace. And it won't be recaptured anytime soon because of the damage you've done to the justice system. And I've talked to FBI agents around the country. You've embarrassed them. You've embarrassed yourself. And I can't help but wonder when I see you looking there with a little smirk, how many times did you look so innocent into your wife's eye and lie to her about Lisa?
Mr.
Chairman, this is outrageous.
Credibility of a witness is always an issue.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is intolerable harassment of the witness.
What's wrong with that? You need your medication.
The gentleman controls the time.
I ask that the witness be permitted to respond to
he will be permitted. He will be permitted to respond.
Did you ever talk to Hillary Clinton during your investigation besides the one?
That's what happens when you get Gomerized. Don't ever get Gomerized. Don't ever do it. Don't ever go into the Gomer zone.
Questioning you mentioned before that or after that to this day.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. The gentleman will state his point of order. It is, I think, against the rules of the House.
He's making up the point of order.
For a member of the committee to be impugning the character of a witness.
It is not.
He should ask questions to elicit. The purpose of this hearing is to elicit information. He should ask questions to elicit information. He should not be impugning the character of the witness. The gentleman is advised the rules of the House only are directed to members of the House and the President of the United States. Therefore, in other words, it is okay to impugn the character of witnesses in any way whatsoever? Well, listen, I've heard many members on your side of the aisle impugn character of somebody who is covered by the rules of the House. But the gentleman, the gentleman has 20 seconds left. The clock will be turned back on, and he can complete his time, and then the witness can respond.
So if you talk to Hillary Clinton, other than the time she was examined in front of the witnesses?
No.
So after throwing away what you have with all the bias you have, you've never even gotten a thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman may respond.
Sir, well, that's quite a set of statements.
Mr. Chairman, I did not finish with a question.
The gentleman,
there was no question asked.
Mr. Chairman, he's been given the opportunity to respond.
The gentleman
There was no question. It was just a straight Gomerization. But let's continue.
Suspend. The time of the gentleman has expired, and as I've indicated
the rules
earlier,
of our hearings are if there is a question asked during the time, the witness may respond to the question after the time.
The witness is going to be allowed to respond briefly.
That's a new rule.
Sir, first, I assure you,
No question.
under oath, as I spoke also during my interview a week or two ago, I have always told the truth. The fact that you would accuse me otherwise, the fact that you would question whether or not that was the sort of look I...
He did not tell the truth about the bias against Trump. He despised Trump in his text messages. He despised President Trump. He was one of the top agents, one of the most powerful agents in the FBI. He was part of both Crossfire Hurricane and midterm exam. I think that was the Clinton email. Midterm exam, right? They didn't want. Who wants a midterm exam? But oh, you love Crossfire Hurricane. Dun, 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 Crossfire Hurricane. But nobody wants a midterm. Who wants to study for midterms? And so the Clinton email was a cover-up. Strzok never explained, nor did Comey, nor did McCabe, how top-secret intel was transferred onto servers. That's another lie by omission. How on earth did Clinton... It's impossible for Clinton's servers to have obtained classified or top-secret intelligence. How did they obtain this information? Okay, that was a lie also. Check this out. This is Jim Jordan explaining why Brennan's going to be indicted, almost certainly arrested.
Today, the House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan referred former CIA Director John Brennan to the DOJ for prosecution over allegations that he made false statements to Congress about his role in the Russia collusion hoax. In his letter, Jordan said, in part, quote, making false statements before Congress is a crime that undermines the integrity of the committee's constitutional duty to conduct oversight. Anyway, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan is with us with more. I've read your letter to Pam Bondi. It is a, wow, powerful prima facie case. He directly lied to Congress numerous times, and you believe you have the evidence.
Yeah, you're not supposed to lie, Sean, but you're definitely not supposed to lie when you're under oath talking to Congress. And that's exactly what it looks like John Brennan did. He said he wasn't involved with the dossier at all. He said that to us under oath. He said he didn't want it included in the intelligence community assessment, the report that's put together. But then ODNI Director Tulsi Gabbard declassified a report that said just the opposite. In fact, John Brennan put in writing that he felt the dossier should be included in the report. And more importantly, when he was confronted by an individual who works at the CIA, and the individual said, Mr. Brennan, this dossier just doesn't hold up. There's not the underlying intelligence to support it. And Brennan's response was, yeah, but doesn't it ring true? Showing his true color, showing that he was out to get President Trump. So we think he lied. We think it's clear. And I'll be, Sean, I don't do a lot of these. I've done very few referrals. You got to have the evidence to do this. We think it's there. We think it is clear. We appreciate what Tulsi released and declassified that report. And that's why we sent it to the Justice Department. And we'll see what the Attorney General Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Blanche do with it now.
They rejected the first intel assessment. Senior career intel officials at the CIA concluded there was no Trump-Russia collusion after the 2016 election. The declassified documents say Obama himself ordered it. And didn't they include, and didn't Brennan know, and wasn't he a part of the meeting that took place?
There was no intelligence community assessment that said Trump and Russia were in cahoots or that Russia wanted Trump. That didn't exist. That was literally fabricated by Brennan and others. There was no actual assessment. They knew that there was no evidence. They conjured up an absurd hoax that you'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe, and millions believed it because media ran with it. That's another reason why 70% of Americans don't trust media. It was a complete lie. It was a McCarthy-era Red Scare hoax, myth. Not for 1 second did Russia ever want Trump. But Clinton's campaign did want Trump. It's within the emails that The Guardian, WikiLeaks, New York Times, Washington Post published.
About a new intelligence assessment in this case?
Yeah. They changed the report between Election Day 2016, Inauguration Day in January 2017. They changed it in December. And they changed it to say something that wasn't supported by the intelligence. And then, to make matters worse, they go up to Trump Tower on January 6, 2017, and brief the president on the dossier that they know is garbage. That someone in the CIA who's familiar with the underlying intelligence told Director Brennan, you shouldn't use this. It doesn't hold up. But his response again was, doesn't it ring true? We're going to go up, set up President Trump, and create the predicate for Mueller and all the other garbage they did in his first term. And I always point out, this is when it all began. And remember, Sean, with John Brennan, there's a pattern. We include this in our letter. I think he lied to Congressman Gowdy back in 2017 about this very subject. We include that. And the irony, of course, is he lied under oath to us when we were questioning him about a different issue. The 51 former intel officials who signed that garbage letter saying the Hunter Biden laptop was a Russian information operation, which was pure garbage.
So he would have gotten away with it potentially had he not lied about Hunter's laptop. Actually, he probably wouldn't have, but that's how all of this got started. The indictment of Brennan, he lied so much, he even lied about Hunter's laptop when he was questioned about it within the past 5 years, and the Durham probe. Check it out.
So there's a pattern with Mr. Brennan. We illustrate that, but the clear evidence where he violated 18 U.S.C. 1001, we believe, is when he made those statements, and then Director Gabbard, God bless her, released the declassified report that said something entirely different.
All right, Jim Jordan, we'll follow this closely. Thank you.
Hey,
John Brennan lied to Congress. Let me just read a couple things, actually, before you answer that. 2 years ago, we had Mr. Brennan in for an interview, and I asked him, how'd you learn about the dossier in December of 2016? Mr. Brennan replied, I received a copy of it from the FBI, and the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the intelligence community assessment. That's what John Brennan told the United States Congress. 7 weeks ago, the Director of National Intelligence told us this. John Brennan lied and denied using the dossier in the intelligence community assessment because he knew it was discredited. CIA officer told the House Intelligence Committee Brennan refused to remove it, and when confronted with the dossier's main flaws, he responded, yes, but doesn't it ring true?
Brennan refused to remove it. That directly contradicts exactly what Brennan testified under oath in the beginning of this live stream. But there's so many lies. They've lied so many times under oath within the past 5 years. Okay? And if James Comey doesn't get that trial kicked out because of the possibly the federal prosecutor not being appointed correctly, which, by the way, Pam Bondi almost certainly appointed her, following protocol or bureau. Nobody knows the DOJ bureaucracy better than Pam Bondi, so it would be a surprise for the case to be thrown out. But Comey wants the case to be thrown out because he doesn't want to go to trial, because Andrew McCabe will testify against him. Andrew McCabe will almost certainly testify against James Comey, because then McCabe possibly faces a prison sentence for lying.
John Brennan lied to us?
Mr. Chairman, I won't stylize the evidence. What I will say is that the intelligence community assessment, those that created it and any individual involved with it, is an ongoing investigation.
There's an investigation into what took place in December 2016, January 2017, when this whole thing started, this grand conspiracy. That is being investigated. Is that right?
That has been publicly announced by the department.
That's been announced by the department. Did Chris Wray hide documents from this committee?
You would know better than me, sir.
Well, I think you told us like 700 pieces of information.
I love Kash Patel. Love Kash Patel.
You've given this committee since you've been the director relative to just one incident, the Catholic memorandum from the Richmond field office.
I can give you the comparison, sir. Yeah. The Catholic memo, I believe we turned over 750 documents. In Mr. Ray's tenure, I believe they turned over 19 pages.
19 pages. You give it a 700. Why would Chris Wray hide information from this committee? You want to hazard a guess?
I'm sorry?
Hazard a guess why he would do that?
I don't know, sir.
I think maybe it was because FBI was spying on a priest, trying to get him to break the priest penitent confidence that exists. You think maybe that was the reason?
You'd have to ask him, sir.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
So this is where we get into obstruction of justice. Hit subscribe if you're new. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right after this. It's in the description, right, and the pinned comment right after this. Subscribe there. We'll have a synopsis of this long live stream. Check it out. This is the obstruction charges against all these people.
Thank you. Director, earlier this year, the committee learned of new documents tied to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation and the Russia collusion hoax against President Trump.
By the way, Comey's legal team is saying, oh my God, the government is withholding evidence. They've been withholding, discovery. And it's like, yeah, because all the discovery they tried to put in bags and incinerate. That's why. All of the handwritten notes that they found with Comey were about to be incinerated in these bags. Check it out.
Your efforts in declassifying key documents tied to this investigation allowed the committee to acquire thousands of pages that it did not have previously. Did any of your predecessors make any effort to declassify these documents?
Not to the extent we have.
Did any of your predecessors share or leak any details that were classified at the time?
There are ongoing leak investigations across the board at the Bureau related to this.
I believe one of those is Mr. Comey, and I thank you for continuing that investigation. Among the declassified documents are the Durham Report Annex, the Crossfire Binder, and the Nellie Orr Criminal Referral. Could you summarize for those watching what we know about the Russia collusion hoax so far?
Well, sir, I think the record will speak.
So there are criminal referrals for former Department of Justice officials as well as Brennan and Comey and all these people. You're talking about DOJ officials that most people have no clue existed. But if you watch this channel or you're into it, he just mentioned a DOJ official that possibly helps set up and frame Trump. So there are a lot of people who are going to be indicted alongside Brennan. They'll all turn on each other. Brennan will turn on them also.
That the Russia collusion matter was perpetrated by a political party to go overseas and obtain information from a foreign intelligence asset, only to have that information, which was demonstrably false, turned over to the FBI, who walked into a federal FISA secret court and asked for a secret surveillance court order and lied to the federal court, and we know that because someone was convicted of it, and only to surveil the political opponent. So that is a massive scandal. We helped expose it. And in terms of the pages of productions, I provided 1,400 pages of production related to Crossfire Hurricane, and my predecessors have provided 0.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your courage and commitment to declassifying these important documents for our review, and hope that you'll continue with this commitment. Can we expect to see more declassification efforts regarding the Crossfire Hurricane and Russia collusion hoax?
Yes.
Thank you. I yield the remaining balance of my time to Chairman Jordan.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. And Director, that's when it all started, right? The whole Russia, that's when it all began. And then it was Mueller, then it was impeachment, then it was Jack Smith and Fonnie Willis and Alvin Bragg and you name it. But it all started then. And that's why I think the gentleman from Texas wants to make sure we get all the information there. And I want to go back to when it was changed. We talked about this earlier. I just want to read to you what the CIA officer said to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, quote, Brennan refused to remove the dossier, and when confronted with the dossier's main flaws, he responded, yes, but doesn't it ring true? So that's what he initially said. And then when he was talking to this committee, he said the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the intelligence community assessment. So on one hand, you got a witness who was there who said he refused to remove it even though he knew it was garbage. And then he's, on the other hand, telling the committee, no, we didn't want anything to do with it. It shouldn't have been a part of the intelligence community.
And there are more than just one whistleblower, almost certainly. There's more than just one witness, almost certainly. The political winds have changed. They can't set up and frame people. Everyone involved now wants to distance themselves. Even people who probably helped Brennan. There are people who probably were on board helping Brennan who are now saying, no. He was trying to do this. I told him not to.
Community assessment, which we know it was. You know it was. You found that. Those are two entirely different stories. I think Mr. Brennan has some explaining to do, frankly, what happened there. And I think you said earlier that this whole thing, and I think you said to Mr. Gooden, this whole thing is being looked at as part of this grand conspiracy to undermine the president, whether it's Comey, Brennan, Clapper, former head of the Intelligence Committee, now senator from, whoever it is, that's all being looked at. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Well, we appreciate that. And part of what's also being looked at, and I think the gentleman from Wisconsin brought this up earlier, what is a burn bag for, by the way?
Generally speaking, the intelligence community obviously utilizes and possesses classified documents, but drafts of those classified documents and even ultimate finished products of those classified documents have to be recorded and or discarded. And if they are discarded, the only way we do that, the hard copies, is we literally put them in burn bags that are identified specifically for that purpose, and there is a very exact courier system in which those burn bags are obtained and the material inside is destroyed.
So it's to get rid of the material, right?
Yes, sir.
And
that's why it's taking a long time for the government to give the judge in court in Comey's trial evidence, because they've tried to destroy all the evidence, almost certainly.
It looks like the annex that Mr. Durham in his investigation had was put into a burn bag by your predecessor, I assume, to be destroyed. Is that accurate?
Without getting into the stylization of the evidence, anything that's put in a burn bag is for purposes of destruction.
Do you find that interesting that the Durham annex was placed in a burn bag, that you would discover that when you took over as the head of the FBI?
We found a lot of information in a lot of burn bags.
Well, we appreciate.
They found a lot of information in those bags. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why they found all that information within burn bags. Because they were trying to obstruct justice. Everybody that was in on it was trying to destroy the evidence.
Welcome back. A new congressional report released this week revealed more.
So this is one of the reasons Brennan will be indicted. He lied to Jim Jordan about the 51 intelligence officials who lied about Hunter's laptop. When Democrats stub their toe, it's the Russians' fault. Anything bad that happens to the Democratic Party, from Clinton losing to Hunter's laptop to emails that literally show corruption, that they wanted to elevate Trump, it's all the Russians. And the whole thing was a lie. When the Berlin Wall fell, the Cold War ended, but they revived a new Cold War because they're so utterly corrupt. Check this out.
More about this 51 ex-intelligence officials who signed that letter calling Hunter Biden's laptop Russian disinformation just weeks before the 2020 election. The report cites former CIA acting director Michael Morell, among others, working with the CIA. Morell previously told Congress that he helped organize that letter after then Biden senior campaign official, now Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, reached out to him days after the New York Post broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. The CIA says both Morell and former CIA Inspector General David Buckley had contracts with the agency on the day the letter was released, October 19th, 2020. The CIA also adds both Morell and Buckley held agency clearance at that time. The New York Post reports Morell denies that he was a contractor with the CIA at that time, saying he cannot explain why the agency would have him listed as a contractor when he claims he wasn't. At the same time, John Ratcliffe was the most senior sitting intelligence official. He was director of national intelligence at the time. They did not ask him to sign the letter, presumably because he said the complete opposite, telling me directly before the election that the laptop was in fact real and in fact was not Russian disinformation at all. Watch.
Let me be clear. The intelligence community doesn't believe that because there's no intelligence that supports that. And we have shared no.
And that's how Democrats win. They have to lie through media. Media has to be willing. And if media didn't cover up, and if social media algorithms didn't cover up the Hunter laptop, and if 51 intel officials, because they always appeal to authority as long as the individuals in authority are liberal Democrats, if 51 intel officials didn't lie through their teeth about Hunter's laptop, the most absurd, outlandish, oh, it's the Russians. Everything is the Russians. Laptop with bribery and graft linked to Biden, Russia. Clinton servers, Russia. Everything. Everything is they blame them. It's like unbelievable. The scapegoat. They just need a scapegoat. And media, by and large, will further any hoax originating within the Democratic Party. So Hunter's laptop, full of bribery and graft. Oh my God, the Russians want you to know about this. Vote for Biden.
Intelligence with Chairman Schiff or any other member of Congress that Hunter Biden's laptop is part of some Russian disinformation campaign. It's simply not true.
Why did Amazon?
Joining me now with reaction is the man himself, former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, along with former House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes. Gentlemen, it's great to have you both here this weekend. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Maria.
Great to be with you.
John, I want to kick things off with you. Give us your take on this Intelligence Community 51 report, how the CIA contractors colluded with the Biden campaign to mislead American voters right before the 2020 election. This, of course, released this week by Congress. And Jim Jordan.
Yeah. Well, as you said, Maria, we all knew that Hunter Biden's laptop was real. In fact, Joe Biden's own Department of Justice had to admit it into evidence reluctantly. We also knew before that these 51 so-called former intelligence officials engaged in a scheme to, as you said, mislead the American people just 2 weeks before the presidential election. What's new about this reporting out of the House is, as you correctly point out, is this notion that some of these supposedly former intelligence officials were not former at all and were under contract and had relationships with the FBI and I mean with the CIA. And the reason that's significant, Maria, is the CIA is supposed to be apolitical and is charged by law under the Hatch Act and other restrictions from engaging in political activity. What made this letter okay from one perspective early on was all of the assertions that these were former officials acting in their private capacity. Now the CIA has admitted, and there's testimony here, that at least some of these individuals were under contract with.
And they're all going to turn on each other. And they're all abandoning ship, so to speak. They're all going to turn on each other. You better believe Brennan would turn on this guy, and this guy would turn on Brennan almost certainly.
The CIA, which means Hatch Act violations and perhaps more serious criminal violations under Title 18 for election interference. So while the House has done some good work here, this really requires a deeper investigation, one that the Biden administration won't undertake. And really what has to happen here, Maria, is that when President Trump is sworn into office, a new CIA director, a new CIA inspector general, and a new attorney general for a Trump administration need a deeper investigation and potential criminal referrals here. And the other thing I would say is, regardless of how all of this plays out, all of those former officials and current officials that were involved in orchestrating this should be irrevocably and permanently stripped of any security clearances or affiliation with the intelligence community. Look, you know, Maria, that we have what's called a debarment list where we put companies and individuals that defraud the government on a list and say, you're a bad actor, you can't be affiliated or do business with the government anymore. That needs to take place with these officials so this kind of political interference can't occur anymore. And I just think this whole sordid affair really lays open the political rot that still takes place within our institutions like the CIA, just as Devin and I experienced with the FBI and the Department of Justice with the first interference in 2016 with the Russia collusion hoax. The same thing happened with the intelligence community here in 2020 with this Hunter Biden laptop lie.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to talk to both of you, because I lived it along with you guys. You were both incredible truth tellers during the Russia collusion lie, and there was no accountability for that, Devin. All those people who lied and made up stories about Trump. So what, of course, they did it again. They did it again right before the 2020 election by lying about the Hunter Biden laptop. And the media takes their direction from these people. I want to show a Politico headline. This Politico headline is right after when the letter came out. And the Politico headline says this. You ready for this, Devin? Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinformation, dozens of former intel officials say. Okay, so they say it may be Russian disinformation. The media gets it and runs with it. Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinformation.
Why would Russia want you to know how corrupt Democrats are? Oh, to get you to vote for Trump. I mean, you'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe the nonsense.
Weeks before the election, that's election interference. Devin, how do you see it?
Well, what's clear is the disinformation was, in fact, those political headlines, which is exactly what Blinken, the current Secretary of State, wanted. I think there's more here, too. This goes back. We all remember the Russia hoax because we were deeply involved in it. But don't forget, this goes back to the IRS scandal. It goes back to Benghazi. And why do I bring up Benghazi? Because the two characters that supposedly were contractors for the CIA at the time that this letter went out, both Buckley and Morell were deeply involved in what? The Benghazi scandal. So it's scandal after scandal that keeps the American people keep asking the question, is the politicalness nature of what's happening to the intelligence agencies, is it ever going to end? And I think John Ratcliffe makes a good point. It's the Department of Justice here that has control over the FBI. The CIA is not supposed to be involved in domestic politics. The only way this is solved is that there has to be a special counsel, a real investigation by a Trump Department of Justice that goes into the FBI, asks the tough questions, and then gets to the CIA.
There are laws in the books that state the CIA cannot be involved, nor can the FBI. No government agency can sway an election. But they routinely did that. They routinely did that in 2020, in 2016, 2018 also. That whole thing in 2018, Democrats got the House. Well, how do you think that happened? Because the Mueller probe was at its height, eventually found nothing. But again, the morally superior, highly educated among us, the wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats, most of whom are amazing human beings, and I mean that, but they believe hoaxes. They're the ones who hyperventilate about misinformation, and all they spread is information that misinforms. Okay, Trump is infinitely more truthful than the past 10 years of media or Democrats that lied about almost everything. They can't name a specific lie, like a grandiose lie from Trump. They'll say like, oh, because he exaggerated or engaged in puffery or, hyperbolic statements. So it's a lie. Okay, they overtly lied. It was, Russian disinformation with Hunter's laptop was the most blatant, patently false thing. They lied about that, but there was nothing that Trump ever said or did that was as impactful as that lie. And then you have Trump Russia, which was literally a 10-year hoax that people still believe. That was another lie. These are lies embedded within U.S. history, by the way. When Democrats lie, they infuse their deceit within U.S. history. We have millions of Americans who actually believe, and they will believe this until their last moments on earth, that Trump and Russia colluded to defeat Hillary Clinton. This, of course, is the most absurd, nonsensical lie, but people believe it with everything they have, with their entire being. And it was not true. By the way, they wanted a disinformation governance board. The same people who are masters, they should give master classes on deceit and disinformation.
It's the only way that this will ultimately be fixed.
And I'm wondering if you two gentlemen are going to be those two who actually makes those decisions. You, Devin Nunes, running the CIA, and you, John Ratcliffe, being the Attorney General. I want to get your take on how to fix things because, look, in this report, John Ratcliffe, okay, it says that the CIA alerted the Office of the Director of National Intelligence about the draft of the Hunter Biden statement. Now, you were the director of the National Intelligence Office. So tell us what happened. Did they actually call your office and say, we're releasing this letter? Couldn't you have shut it down right then and said, no, you cannot go public with this letter because it's absolutely not true?
Well, as you know, Maria, our interview took place on national TV the day before this letter came out. Where I said this is clearly not Russian disinformation. And again, this was a letter that didn't come from the CIA. It came from former officials outside acting in their private capacity. So we were told. But now we're finding out that it went through, as it went through the pre-publication clearance review board at the CIA, that there were individuals within the CIA that apparently knew this was taking place and would have known and been privy to the same information that I had, which was that the laptop was the subject of an FBI investigation into Hunter Biden for tax fraud and Foreign Agent Registration Act violations. So anyone at the CIA, that had this knowledge and participated would be the subject of that investigation that both Devin and I referenced. Obviously, if I
So you're going to have 20, 30 plus indictments. Okay, Trump ain't playing. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is a blast from the past, a trip down memory lane. Check it out.
New questions raised about John Brennan's role in this whole thing. On May 23rd of last year, long after the election, he claimed that he didn't know who had paid for the dossier, who asked for it. Watch.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
I have no awareness. Here now, Fred Fleitz, former CIA analyst and current senior vice president at the Center for Security Policy. Fred, good to see you this evening.
Good to be here.
Let me draw your attention to this from an exclusive report in Real Clear Investigations. It says several Capitol Hill sources say Brennan, a fiercely loyal Obama appointee, talked up the dossier to Democratic leaders as well as the press during the campaign. So that was well before the statement that we just saw. They also said that he fed allegations about Trump-Russia contacts directly to the FBI while pressuring the Bureau to conduct an investigation of several Trump campaign figures starting in the summer of 2016. You have said you think that he is very central to this whole thing.
I do. I think he's a missing link. And I got to tell you, given his hostility towards Mr. Trump, inconsistencies and contradictions in his statements, I think there's a lot that has to be looked into here. He said he did not see the Steele dossier until late 2016, but learned snippets about it in mid-2016 while he was promoting the story. He also said that the dossier did not affect CIA analysis in 2016 or major intelligence community analysis in early 2017, but the dossier was the principal piece of information used for the FISA warrant application to spy on Carter Page in October 2016. So, Martha, this means that the CIA, according to Brennan, either didn't know about or didn't have the dossier, which is impossible to believe, or the CIA thought the dossier wasn't reliable. There's a lot that has to be looked into here.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to note, Paul Sperry, investigative journalist, wrote about this today. He said the dossier makes the same claims and has sort of the same language in it as the Obama ICA, their intelligence community assessment. It says that Putin personally ordered the cyber attacks, that the leaked embarrassing emails were to bolster Trump as part of a, quote, aggressive Trump support operation. So you have the exact same language in both the official Obama intel assessment and the dossier. Does that seem odd to you?
Well, in terms of full disclosure, I was interviewed by Mr. Sperry for this article. This intelligence community assessment that came out in early January 2017 was very, very strange. It was only written by 3 intelligence agencies. It wasn't vetted with the majority of agencies, including the Defense Intelligence Agency and Homeland Security. And it was written by a small group of hand-picked analysts. Now, a committee source, a source for the House Intelligence Committee, told me they're looking at every word of this ICA, and they're trying to find out how were these hand-picked analysts picked. Because as a former CIA analyst, I can tell you that's not the way it's done.
So in that vein, why were we told by James Clapper and others that 17, the idea was that everyone across the board in the intel community, 17 agencies all agreed that there was obvious meddling by the Russians in our election?
If you parse exactly what he said, he admitted it was written by the hand-picked analysts. That actually came from Clapper, and he named the agencies they came from. He's tried to say it reflects the views of the entire community, but I've discussed this on Fox before. If you look at the cover page of this assessment, it lacks a key caveat that this is an intelligence community coordinated product. You can look at other ones on the web, and that caveat is there. This one doesn't say that because it was only written and cleared by 3 agencies, one of which was CIA under Brennan's leadership.
We know that Devin Nunes has put a letter out to Brennan and Clapper asking them to answer questions about their understanding about the dossier and whether or not it was relied upon for the intelligence community assessment, which is a large, document that should be compiled by so many of our agencies, as you say, and it turns out that it was just done by a handful of people. So there's a lot of questions, obviously. I want to get your thoughts on some other breaking news tonight. Susan Rice has just responded to Senators Graham and Grassley, asking
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's finally happening. Took 10 years. John Brennan is going to be indicted very soon, almost certainly arrested, and it took 10 years to do so. They used a dossier purchased by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, funneled it through the U.S. government to set up and frame Trump. This is not rocket science. We knew this 10 years ago. This was apparent to everybody. I've been telling you for the past 8-9 years that people committed crimes. People committed crimes because you cannot. 18 U.S. Code 371 is the statute. There are other statutes. There are conspiracy statutes. You can't deceive the American public, knowing that Russia didn't want Trump and Russia didn't even influence even one vote. So the absurd nonsense that the DNC or campaign emails or Hunter's laptop, everything that exposes corruption within the Democratic Party is not a Russian plot. The corruption exists. If corruption points people to Trump or away from Democrats, that's the Democratic Party's fault, not the Russians. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. You heard Brennan lie numerous times under oath. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. We'll be back on this channel for the live stream about 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now to my super chat.